In the year 2024, an ancient prophecy resurfaces, bringing forth a chilling truth: a red heifer is destined to trigger the Armageddon near the April 8th eclipse. What does this mean for us, ordinary people living in this world full of uncertainties? It's a question that leaves us anxious and curious. Have you ever heard of the prophecy of the red heifer? It's a belief that captures the attention of Jews, Christians, and Muslims around the world. It's one of the few prophecies that affect these three major religions, all linked by the figure of Abraham as a prophet. To give you an idea, about 25% of the world's population is Muslim, 31.6% is Christian, and 2% is Jewish. This means that this prophecy has a real impact on more than half of the planet's population. Before we proceed, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, as we'll be bringing many videos like this one. It is said that when the red heifer is sacrificed, it marks the beginning of the last days. However, the meaning of this event varies according to each religion. Before exploring these meanings, it's important to understand a bit of the history behind this practice. The red heifer is intricately linked to the reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem, known as the Third Temple. The first temple was destroyed by the Babylonians in 586 BCE, while the second, built by Herod, was destroyed by the Romans in 70 CE. Since then, no temple has been rebuilt in Jerusalem. Jews eagerly await the opportunity to build the Third Temple, believing that it will signal the coming of the Messiah. The reconstruction of the Third Temple is mentioned in various passages of the sacred scriptures, but there is a significant challenge. When the Romans expelled the Jews from Jerusalem almost 2,000 years ago, they did not return in large numbers. Meanwhile, Muslims settled in the region and built a mosque and shrine on the mount where the ruins of the original Jewish temple are believed to have stood. This site is of utmost importance to Muslims, considered the third holiest place for them, after Mecca and Medina. They believe that Muhammad ascended to heaven from there and left his footprints on a rock protected by the dome of the rock. During the Jews' journey through the desert, after their liberation from Egypt, the construction of the tabernacle played a crucial role in their spiritual connection with God. The tabernacle was a mobile structure, a kind of portable sanctuary, which served as a place of worship and encounter with the divine during their pilgrimages. Built according to divine instructions, the tabernacle was the tangible symbol of God's presence among the people of Israel. Within the tabernacle, the Holy of Holies was the most sacred place, where the Ark of the Covenant, containing the tablets of the law, was kept. This space was so revered that only the high priest was allowed to enter it, and that happened only once a year, on the Day of Atonement. Moreover, during this period in the desert, Moses received the commandments and laws of God, known as the Law or the Torah. These commandments were essential for the conduct and worship of the Jews and were codified in the 5 books of the Old Testament. Among the commandments received by Moses was the ritual of the red heifer, described in detail in the book of Numbers. This ritual involved the purification of the impure and was performed with a red heifer without blemish, which was sacrificed outside the camp, its ashes being used in a specific purification ritual. The red heifer therefore represented a vital element in the observance of divine laws and in maintaining ritual purity among the children of Israel during their journey through the desert. The search for a suitable red heifer is meticulous, as it cannot have any defect and must be sacrificed within a specific time frame. Since the time of Moses, about 3,300 years ago, this ritual has been performed only 9 times, the first supervised by Moses himself. Jews believe that the 10th sacrifice of the red heifer will mark the beginning of the construction of the Third Temple, considered a sign of the Messiah's coming. This event is awaited with great anticipation and is seen as a significant milestone in the spiritual journey of the Jewish people, representing the hope of a promising future and the fulfillment of messianic prophecies. Christian beliefs also relate the reconstruction of the temple in Jerusalem to the second coming of Jesus Christ. Most Christians believe that the Jews will rebuild the temple and see the sacrifice of the red heifer as a precursor to this event. The temple holds a central significance for both religious groups. In the plan to build the temple on the Mount of Olives 12 years ago, lands were purchased for this exact purpose and belonged to Rabbi Yickmamo. This same rabbi collaborated with Byron Stinson to bring the 5 qualified red heifers to Israel. The heifers are about to complete their 3rd year, making them eligible for the ritual. Many anticipate that the ritual will happen soon, before the heifers become too old and are no longer qualified to be used in such a sacrifice. The Temple Institute itself has stated that it is expecting to perform the ritual soon. According to a news channel, a massive altar has already been constructed to conduct the ceremony, according to those working on the project. The red heifer ceremony needs to be performed on the Mount of Olives and at a location that would have a direct view of where the temple stood. The land directly east of the Temple Mount, purchased 12 years ago, meets both criteria. In a recent public appearance by Mamo, he said, "We are very close to the third year of these cows last month." All Israel News reported that the Temple Institute wants to perform a sacrifice before Passover 2024. This year, the Jewish people will celebrate Passover on April 22nd. Others believe the sacrifice could happen even sooner, because it is the Sabbath of the Red Heifer, but the Temple Institute continues to say it is waiting for a sign from God if this is the time to perform the sacrifice. With all this background leading to current events, here's the crucial point: the Dome of the Rock and the Al-Aqsa Mosque are on the Temple Mount, where most believe the original temple stood. This is a view of the Temple Mount from the top of the Mount of Olives. Jews believe they have rights over the Temple Mount for their temple, while Muslims maintain control of the Temple Mount and have their sacred structures upon it. Now, while Christians wait to see what happens, believing these events need to occur before the return of Jesus Christ, some have even proposed that the two religions share the land, as there is enough space for both. But, as you can imagine, neither group is willing to do that. Within the walls of Jerusalem, ethnic quarters have been established for Jews, Muslims, and various Christian denominations over the centuries. To this day, in Jerusalem, if you visit, you can stroll through the Jewish quarter, the Christian quarter, the Armenian quarter, and the Muslim quarter, etc., as these are designated areas for different ethnicities to try to live together in the city. In some areas, you need to pass through security checkpoints with military guards to go to different areas of the city or specific locations. For decades, these Third Temple movements have been preparing and agitating for the construction of the temple. They even created utensils, furniture, and priestly garments for the use of the upcoming sanctuary. Almost every year, on Jewish holidays, these groups have tried to force their way onto the Temple Mount to pray, which is a violation and consistently have been prevented by Israeli security forces. In recent years, however, an increasing number of Jews have begun to agitate more widely for the right to ascend to the Temple Mount to pray, which is a violation of the 1967 status quo agreement on the site. Palestinian Muslims have responded with demonstrations and violence and the threat of a potential new intifada. So Jews want to initiate the reconstruction of the temple on the Temple Mount to pave the way for the Messiah. Muslims see this as a desecration of their third holiest site in the world. While Jews believe that Muslims have desecrated their site for centuries, Jews needed to build the temple for the Messiah to come. Christians also believe that the temple needs to be rebuilt before the second coming of Jesus Christ, while Muslims will protect the site at all costs. By the way, if you want even more information about the temple in Jerusalem in the last days and the prophecies related to it, watch my other video titled Jerusalem of the Last Days, the Location of the Third Temple. Jews and Christians believe in the prophecy about the coming Messiah. According to the Bible, after the temple is rebuilt in the city of Jerusalem, it will fall under siege, and this is known as Armageddon, but is saved at the last minute when Christ descends and steps on the Mount of Olives. When his foot touches, the mountain splits in half, causing a great earthquake that decimates the invading army, saving the Jews. Then the Jews come to their Messiah and see the marks on his hands and feet. The rest of the prophecy is written in Zechariah 13:6, which says, "And someone will say to him, 'What are these wounds in your hands?' And he will answer, 'Those with which I was wounded in the house of my friends.'" This is the moment when the Jews realize that it is Jesus Christ who is their Messiah, and they are converted to Christianity. Many Christians believe in the prophecy of the Red Heifer because they believe it needs to happen before the temple is rebuilt, which is a requirement for the second coming. Which is true, but what they often don't remember is that when Christ came during his mortal ministry, he announced that he fulfilled the law of Moses, meaning that Jesus' followers no longer needed to follow the law of Moses, which would include the sacrifice of a red heifer. And remember what I said a little while ago, the traditional belief is that the Savior himself would offer the 10th sacrifice of the red heifer, the 9th being before his ministry. Christ actually offered himself as the 10th red heifer. He was the final sacrifice, with the red heifer being symbolic of the Savior Jesus Christ. So, while most Christians may not have thought about it, the entire prophecy of the red heifer has been fulfilled. The problem is that Jews do not believe in Jesus and therefore still follow the law of Moses and still believe in this prophecy. So, while there is no need from the Christian perspective to perform this ritual, it will likely still happen at some point because it is believed that Jews will build the third temple in Jerusalem and believe they need to offer this sacrifice first. So imagine how many religions believe in different things. But then there is a singular event that everyone believes in and some want it to happen and others do not want it to happen. This kind of crucial point in history can be very dangerous. The prophecy of the red heifer is one of those crucial points. So when commentators and online personalities say that a cow can cause World War III, they are not kidding at all. That's why people are concerned that the conflict in Israel now could turn into Armageddon, because it is predicted and it is very likely that the sacrifice of a red heifer is what will start all of this. Some Jews pray for war and feel it is time to liberate the Temple Mount from the Muslims. Other Jews understand the political impact that something like the sacrifice of the red heifer can have on world politics and could cause war and therefore want to be more cautious about when this happens. But even if the 10th heifer is sacrificed, it does not mean that the war begins immediately, nor does it mean that the Jews will take control of the Temple Mount immediately, but many feel that it could be a call to action for all Jews to take up arms and reclaim the Temple Mount for the temple's reconstruction. But keep in mind that the red heifer is just the first step. The temple would still need to be built after that. So there are many prophecies about what happens with the temple. Then Armageddon happens. Then Christ saves the Jews and they are converted. But even then it is not the second coming. But although many people believe it is Christ coming in glory, where the righteous are exalted and the wicked burned sometimes after the Jews are saved and converted, so there are still several events that need to happen before the second coming of the Savior. But I hope now you can understand why so many people online are talking about a red heifer and worried about world events as a result. I hope you enjoyed and subscribe and even comment below. However, it is important to note that, as of the time of this recording, the Temple Institute has not yet released formal plans or selected a specific date for the sacrifice of the red heifer. While there is the possibility that it may occur this month, it is also possible that this event is scheduled for a distant future. The uncertainty surrounding this issue adds a layer of suspense and anticipation to the situation. Many are eagerly awaiting to witness this significant event, which carries profound religious and political implications. Regardless of when the sacrifice of the red heifer occurs, I sincerely hope that this video provides the necessary context to understand this event when it finally unfolds. I greatly appreciate you watching and being interested in this relevant and intriguing subject.